and welcome to another episode of the Marion County Children's Services Podcast. My name is Elizabeth Moore. I'm the Foster Care and Community Engagement Coordinator. And here with me this week, I have Heath Ring. Heath, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Heath Ring, and I'm the Executive Director at the Marion Shelter Program, also known as the Heart of Ohio Homeless Shelter. We're a multi-county emergency shelter here based out of Marion, have only facilities in Marion, but we do service the 5 surrounding counties that touch Marion. So Delaware, Union, Crawford, Wyandotte, and Morrow counties as well.
All right. So you've already kind of started talking about that, but the next question is, how do you serve Marion? How do you serve the people of Marion and all these surrounding counties?
Yeah. So we are an emergency shelter for those that are some of the most vulnerable in our communities. Those that do not have safe shelter should get in contact with us, and we usually get in contact with people first by a phone, but sometimes people do stop in on the porch to inquire of our services and seek help from us. And so we will start a process called diversion, where we will attempt to find an alternative to coming into our shelter. And it may seem a little weird, but it's not, even outside of the COVID pandemic, it's never safe for someone to come into a group setting situation where there are doors that don't lock and stuff like that to their room and their personal belongings. So in that process, what we try to do is, if we can, we try to attempt to work with and identify family members or friends that are willing to shelter their loved one. And if they can, at least for a day or so, that's great. That's a successful diversion. If they can't, then we will bring them in to the shelter, help them to stabilize here, and then start connecting them with some of those resources that we connect them to hopefully stabilize and then get to more permanent housing.
Yeah, and I feel like recently we've seen more, you send out a lot of updates and stuff, especially through, well, Heath and I have met and known each other off and on different ways through the years, but especially recently through the community collaborative. And I've seen you, posting a lot of those updates and stuff. And so you were talking about at the last meeting, the diversion and how that has always been a part of what you guys are doing at the shelter.
Well, it was, just to be completely honest, it was always supposed to be a part of what we did at the shelter. And different emergency shelters do diversion maybe differently than how we do it. What we're trying to do is, if we can, we're trying to do a couple of things through diversion. We're number one, trying to, if we can, divert someone from coming in with us, because again, it's not ultimately the safest thing, even again outside of COVID. But if we can find some type of alternative that's better, a trusted friend or family that's willing to let them stay with them to stabilize and then get connected to the right resources towards that end, then we ultimately want to do that. Even as an emergency shelter, we don't want to bring them in if there's a better option out there for them. So we're looking for their best interest when we try to do this. It can be kind of a invasive and hard process for people sometimes. And it can look a little bit different from one individual to the other, depending on their context, what, has kind of, what's led to them maybe being in that situation and stuff. So essentially, when I came on board, which I've only been the director since November of 2019, I started hearing the word diversion in some meetings and with some groups that I was a part of, and started looking into it even more and realized that this was a process that could really help empower and equip individuals to maybe prevent them from becoming homeless. And then maybe it could help them from ever becoming homeless and staying out of homelessness altogether. So there's kind of a bigger picture that we're kind of keeping our eyes on when we do diversion. But it's also a process where it helps us to determine that someone is indeed homeless and is in need of our services, because we do want to make sure that we are serving the homeless in our communities. That's what we're set up as an emergency shelter for. We're not someone that's just going to take your unruly kid in and let them stay with us. We can't even have minors stay with us by themselves, but we're not going to take your uncle or aunt in or whatever just because you don't want to deal with them or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, if there's some other safer alternative out there. So that's what the whole process is about. And we do that at first with every single individual, showing no partiality or favoritism towards them, but just trying to, again, keep their best interests at mind.
So, you know, something I think that's really interesting is outside of the realm of social services in Marion, I don't think people know or, you know, maybe recognize that there is a homeless population.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, is there anything, and I know that this wasn't part of what I sent to you, it's just part of the conversation. You know, is there something you can speak to help educate people on what that looks like in Marion?
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, and I can only give my humble opinion on it,
Sure.
which could be, you know, I mean, is basically ballparking it at best, as far as the how and what we see here at the shelter. There are probably more homeless individuals and families here in this community and, again, the 5 surrounding counties that we support than we even know.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a need here. And we are, first of all, I guess, this is probably good to know to help maybe clear up any misconceptions. We are a single men's, women's, and family shelter. So we shelter single men, single women, and then families, and that can be husband, wife, a partner, or partners and couples with kids as well in our shelter facility. But homelessness, as we see it, is definitely a problem here and in the surrounding communities. COVID has kind of thrown a wrench in things and made it even worse for individuals. It's just made resources like housing resources much worse for families and stuff. You know, as far as just some national information, one of the most concerning things that I've seen over the last year and a half that I've worked here at the shelter is a national report that's done annually every year by it's the National Coalition to, National Alliance to End Homelessness, the NAEH. And they do this annual report where they kind of track homelessness throughout our country. And one of the things that they've seen is that while homelessness has gone down over the last 8 years, it's been on a downward trend. It's actually started to bend back upward again. We're nowhere to where we were 8 years ago, which is good.
Right.
That trend won't continue to swing back upward again. But the really concerning thing that I saw in the 2020 report was that there was and I can't give the exact number, I'm sorry, Elizabeth, but there was an overwhelming majority of families and individuals in our country that were 1 to 2 resources away from poverty and homelessness. And that's scary to think about. And I'm not really trying to scare people on this whole thing, but you know, we may know of some people that are indeed homeless. And again, we're trying to set out to help those that are truly homeless, but like doing things like diversion, we're hoping that we can actually reach and help those that are not homeless maybe yet, and again, try to prevent them from becoming homeless. So that's kind of, again, not being able to give numbers, exact numbers on things. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to engage with those that we see and that maybe are willing to get in touch with us and that's express that they need help. Again, by starting diversion and really trying to understand their situation. But we'll bring them in if we need to. And if we don't need to, we're going to help equip them so we can maybe see those numbers start to improve that we've seen nationally and locally in our community.
That's great. So you've already kind of touched on this a little bit, but how has COVID impacted maybe the way you are serving?
Yeah, that's good. Things have changed here dramatically, and they've even changed here as we've gotten through more of the pandemic. Restrictions have, kind of loosened and stuff like that. And as we found out more by our medical experts, we've tried to continue to adhere to their guidance and everything. First and foremost, before the pandemic, our shelter facility here at 326 West Fairground was set up to house and shelter 29 individuals and families. So we had a bed capacity of 29. When COVID hit, with that, just the social distancing guidelines that we're following up to today, we can shelter here at the facility 12, up to 12 people. Yeah. We have another alternative for families and individuals outside of that 12. So if we fill up here, there's still an option that we can pursue with families and individuals. And sometimes there's a better option for families and individuals. We've had to isolate and quarantine people with COVID. Those people we didn't house and shelter here. We maybe put them in a motel that we were working with and sheltered them that way. But that can kind of bring up some new challenges that we have, where, working with agencies like yours becomes extremely important for us, because then we have families and individuals that are staying in these motels, and the conditions sometimes that they're living in are unsafe and maybe require maybe a little bit more oversight and help and assistance with resources, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't do this by yourself. And you and I had kind of talked about maybe the potential through email. You like interns, and I know you don't just have an intern, but you also have, do you want to talk about some of the other roles at your agency?
I'm glad you asked that. That wasn't planned either to ask that question. The employee, well, first of all, we have a staff of 9 right now.
Okay.
There are 9 of us here. That is made up of me, the executive director, then our program manager, Amy, and our case manager, Angel. And then we have, that's 6 program specialists that we have, and then 2 interns right now that are interning with us. We have 1 intern that's coming from Marion Technical College, and then we have another intern coming from Mount Vernon Nazarene, both pursuing similar degrees, but different ones. MTC is pursuing an associate's, the other one in human and social services. The other one is pursuing a bachelor's in social work, and is possibly going to get his license to practice social work. The program specialists, they're the ones that run this place here at the shelter. They're the ones that do diversion. They're the ones that do the intake process. There are a couple of assessments that we do with people while they're staying with us, and then they're responsible for kind of the operations of our shelter facility, and now those families and individuals that are staying at the motels, if they have any needs. You know, and then while someone is staying with us, they're put on a case management plan with us, and that's where Angel comes in and provides case management for them. And then Amy provides a little bit of support with that, but she's kind of the behind the scenes person that handles a lot of our finances, you know, paying our bills and stuff like that, keeping the lights on and everything, and you know, make sure that we're providing good case management, where we're meeting some of the benchmarks we need to meet through case management. But I will say interns they're some of the most exciting people to work with. I have learned so much. I don't even know if I'm allowed to use the name or throw out the names of them. I'm not going to, because I didn't get their permission really to do it in this. I have had so much fun working with interns, and I've only worked with 3 so far. They've all been from 3 different universities, and they've all been pursuing a different degree and a different career. The first intern I ever had this worked out really well. It was actually, you know, almost around the start of COVID. It was in the spring and then early summer. I had a Ohio Northern student who was in the business school there. That was cool. Yeah, it was amazing. He was able to help me with researching some grants and stuff like that. And
yeah,
he worked remotely at home, so he looked up a lot, but he actually really wanted to come and see us here and kind of get to know operations and stuff like that. So he came here one time, but he did some amazing work. And they actually help us learn as well, as I hope we're helping them in their learning journey and stuff. I will say our interns have dove into everything that, you know, the program specialists are doing, and the program manager and case manager. They have done diversion. They have provided case management. They have run groceries out to our families and individuals that are staying at the motels, and everything in between. So, right now we're looking at starting a new position here at the shelter to kind of help with hopefully lowering the recidivism for people and families that are in poverty. Those, again, from entering poverty. And that we're looking at this with one of the interns specifically that's with us. We want to hire it would be a social work position that would be kind of an outreach, someone that would be doing some outreach with us, but would be working with those individuals and families that maybe are coming down the pipeline to stay with us.
Yeah.
And like someone who's reentering society, and is was locked up and incarcerated in jail or in one of the prisons, and their county of origin is one of our 6 counties that we support. If they're returning to one of those counties and they're in need of our services, then they're going to work with our individual and start connecting with resources before they even maybe enter our shelter. Then they would enter our shelter and they would work through their priorities with us and stabilize even more with us, with that person, but then also with the help of our case manager. And then hopefully they would get successfully housed to us, and that person that was with them at the very beginning was kind of there doing some check-ins and doing some touches throughout, would follow up with them for up to a year afterwards. And then families and individuals would, if they're stabilized after a year of being, after they haven't been with us for a year, they would, you know, kind of drop off the caseload. And hopefully, you know, that means that they're living sustainably, living towards self-sufficiency, and
Awesome.
now empowered and equipped to kind of resource themselves, a little bit. So
That's great. I love to hear that.
yeah,
So how can people get involved? Are you guys accepting donations? Do you take volunteers?
yeah, yeah.
For both during COVID and outside of COVID, if they're different.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we let me know if I don't answer any part of this, because I think, I really want to make sure that I do answer every part of this, Elizabeth. But we are taking donations. We are partners, though, with some of the other agencies and organizations here in town that take donated items as well. So if you do have secondary items or used, even if they're gently or lightly used items, it's always best to take those items to those agencies that specialize in that type of thing, like the Goodwill, or Goodwill Industries, Salvation Army, Leaping Outreach, because they specialize in that. They also, some of them have Habitat for Humanity. They also sometimes have certification to be able to take those items and process those items. We don't necessarily have that, but we do take new items. We have an Amazon wish list that I'm always reposting on our Facebook page that you're more than welcome to look at, and you can donate items from there. It helps us, on our mission, working with homeless families.
Too.
Huh?
We'll put it in the description of the video.
Oh, perfect, perfect. So yeah, we take donations, and I think also on our website, Heart of Ohio homelessshelter.org, we have on our homepage a general list of items that we always take.
Okay.
You're more than welcome to donate. So you can donate that or donate those items as well. But volunteers. So we're looking into this, and Elizabeth, you've kind of been involved in this. One of the things that I think we're going to be leaning into, we were trying to think about like some projects that we could have people work on, but just with this whole idea that I've had around this position that I just got done talking about. Now that we got home base covered here at the shelter and we're fully staffed, and we don't have to close the shelter to our residents at any part during the day. They don't have to leave any time.
Wow.
It is open to the residents 24/7 now, and we're very grateful for that. We're going to continue doing that as much as we can. Hopefully we don't, get short-staffed again. But the volunteer program, I would love to see those that really have a passion for working with homeless individuals and families, maybe now that we have home base covered, engaging in some street outreach and community outreach, or maybe engaging with the homeless individuals and families we see in the community, and just making sure that we're linking them up with our agency and maybe other resources that would help them. And then, I don't know, there could be other things down the lines. I know that there's someone that just joined our board that does financial literacy for high school students. She was talking about that. That's something that maybe we could offer through the volunteer program, and you could become a facilitator's supporter of that financial literacy piece, and we could offer it through the volunteer program as well. So if you do want to talk about volunteering, I would say call us at the shelter.
Okay.
40387-4550, and let's talk about it. And I would like to get something started real soon. So, and I would be excited to talk with you about it.
Awesome.
Yeah. Did I answer all of that question?
I think so.
Okay, great, great.
So far. So do you have anything else that you feel like you need the people of Marion to hear?
Just don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have questions and stuff. I do know there's a lot of misconceptions that go around in the community. And, to go back to something that you said at the very beginning of this, you talked about how, I've been sharing information at some of the same meetings that we attend and stuff like that. I feel like that's really important. I want to be very transparent with our community and let them know what we're seeing and some of the trends that are happening right now. So you can always refer to that, but you can always just give us a call and ask us if you have any questions about anything. I mean, we took questions like when before we were fully staffed and able to keep the facility open to the residents 24/7, people would call us and ask, like, is it true that the residents have to leave? And that's a legitimate question, a legitimate concern, and something worth calling us about. But call us about it, and don't just take, secondhand information. We're happy to go over that with you. That's also may lead to how you can become more involved and help us with the families and the individuals that are struggling the most in our community. We'd love to get you involved with us any way we can.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's the only thing I got.
So normally in my podcast, I always ask my guest an unscripted question.
Let's do it. You've already asked unscripted.
I know. I'm like, I've already asked you several, so we'll see how you receive that statement.
Yes, let's do it.
So what I'll do is I'll ask you the question, and then I'll talk to everybody for a minute, and then so it gives you some time to think, and then I'll come back for you to answer, okay?
Okay.
So what is it that made, because you've only been there for a year and a half, and what a year and a half I'm sure it's been in the middle of a pandemic. What is it that gives you the passion and the desire to serve Marion through this role? Okay, so give you a minute to think, all right? So again, if you have any questions about volunteering or really anything about the shelter, it sounds like you're able to call their number, and we'll have that information also in the description, and as well as the link to the Amazon wish list. Just ways that you can get involved in serving the people of Marion. And like Heath and I were talking about, this is a population that is largely unseen in our county, but is definitely present and needs support. So lots of ways that you can support and you can get involved and serve those people in our community. So Heath, how are you doing? Are you ready?
Good. Oh man. Still thinking. What you just said actually about this being a population of people in our community that are unseen, that is the type of thing that I think compels me to do this work. And I think I can vouch for everyone that works here. That's what compels them every day. The people that work here, we've worked on things like trying to pay them a little bit better and stuff like that. And I'm glad about that. But I am also grateful that they were working with us, and they will tell you that the reason why we've had people here for all the way up to 16 years.
Wow.
The shelter to this very day. And then 13 years after that and multiple years. I have the least seniority out of everyone here at the shelter. But the reason why they do what they do is because of that as well. This is fulfilling work, but they know that they're helping people that do not feel seen. They feel disenfranchised and marginalized, empower themselves, equip themselves to be, positive and good members and citizens in their community. And that work is just, it's just so fulfilling. So that's my answer. And I'm speaking a little bit for the rest of the agency based on what they've told me. And they tell me every day. So.
Well, I'm sure you can see their heart and their passion too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Heath, I thank you so much for your time. And again, if you have any questions about the shelter, feel free to reach out to them. As always, if you have any ideas about future episodes of the podcast, please feel free to get in touch with me, and have a great week. Thanks for watching.
Thank you guys. Take care. Stay safe.